But I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the time on the agenda. Ben has been great and responsive in allowing us the time. And once again, I'm David Quackenbush, the Executive Director of CalATMA, which is the California Acupuncture and Traditional Medicine Association. I'm going to go through some slides to talk about our brief history and about our plans for the future. So I don't need to tell you all this. There's over 12,000 licensed acupuncturists in the state. What we have heard consistently from the board and from legislators is there has been historically a variety of voices that have come to this board, and you all know this better than I do, and legislators with advocacy efforts, specific asks, inconsistency in message and inconsistency in priorities. And what we are trying to do is to bring some unification and consistency to the profession, and with the very obvious threats and opportunities that we have in front of us. You'll hear more about dry needling and other professionals doing what we consider acupuncture in a variety of settings, not having gone through the education and licensing that we think they should. There's the issue of insurance coverage and insurance reimbursement rates that is a very immediate and sensitive issue to current professionals and future professionals. And and part of the evolving healthcare system. I think we see the interest and energy that's going into the integrated healthcare system, with primary care being much more comprehensive and including a variety of specialists, including acupuncture. We were formed because of this tipping point. There was this fragmented representation, and there was this need to unify acupuncturists. And you'll see as I continue, the idea of unification is around the profession, and it's not in conflict or with the idea that the existing and historical acupuncture associations would dissolve or would go away. It's unifying around a single message to really advocate for the profession as a whole. Just a simple reminder around the idea of an association, because there's federation models, there's association models, there's a variety of groups and definitions that come with the group. Our group is simply a membership-based organization that represents acupuncture for advocacy and protection of the profession. Every major healthcare profession has one statewide association. Dr. Matecki, we were just talking about the all-powerful American Medical Association and California Medical Association, which is really the premier example of a very strong association that has done wonders for their profession. Now, everyone might not always agree with what they've advocated for or their approach, but no one can disagree with the strength and success of that association, which is something we hope to emulate. And this is why CalATMA was formed, to create this one statewide, unified, inclusive association for the profession. It's very interesting and impressive, the process that was undertaken to get to the point we're at. There was a very thoughtful process that was really led by Assemblyman Evan Lowe at his behest, to pull the various groups together and to create a steering committee that met on a regular basis, really for about 18 months, that concluded around December of 2018 to formally form CalATMA. This is the group that was part of the steering committee. Several folks in this room and on the board are represented. And it also included others. So it was a very open, transparent process, inclusive process, to really come up with what we came up with today. The mission, and I'll just read it so it's very clear to everyone, is to protect, promote, integrate, and advance the practice of acupuncture and traditional medicine, preserve the rights of the patients it serves, and seek continuous improvement in the quality of patient treatment and care. if you want to know what we're about, that's what we're about. Pretty straightforward. Protect the profession, protect the patients, and provide the highest level of quality of care. Another element that went into creating CalATMA, which is also a reason why we want to work very closely with the board, is we are also very focused on elevating the professionalism of practitioners. It's very important that acupuncturists are seen as professional healthcare providers in the healthcare delivery system. That means a variety of things to a variety of people, but in order to have the insurance conversation, in order to have the reimbursement conversation, in order to be successful in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., acupuncturists need to be seen as professional healthcare providers, and that's part of our mission. The steering committee evolved into our board of directors, and this is our current board of directors, and Michael Fox and Young Ping are in the room, and Neil was here yesterday and should be here shortly. So you know our members, you know the board, you know the leadership. That gives you a sense of what we're about. And I'm the executive director, and it was very intentional that they brought me on as the executive director, who is not a licensed acupuncturist. So the majority of the groups that have formed to advocate for acupuncture in California and really around the country are led by very passionate and strong board members. There are very few that have an employed, paid executive director. Very intentional. Also, I have a history of association management and advocacy and lobbying in Sacramento and DC, which was also very intentional. They wanted a presence in Sacramento, they wanted someone who had done advocacy for healthcare, and they wanted somebody who has a long history of association management. And I've played a variety of roles in associations, and I completely appreciate and support of the concept of a professional association. And I also am very strident on supporting the board in their role in doing that. I'm a Sacramento native, I'm a Sacramento resident. Some folks, I'm always amazed by some folks' personal paths, and yet, as you know, many licensed acupuncturists have very, very interesting personal and family backgrounds that they've traveled around the world. And I always reiterate, for better or worse, I've never lived anywhere else but Sacramento. I'm a Sacramento native, Sacramento resident, been doing advocacy in the legislature for 20 years. That's what I know, that's where I live. And that was also very intentional by the CalATMA board, was to have a presence in Sacramento to work with the board and to work with the legislature. And that's my email, by the way. So our priorities: scope of practice, insurance coverage and reimbursement rates, integration in the healthcare delivery system, enhancing professionalism, and small business regulation. You know, one thing I brought up yesterday with the legislative conversation was AB 5, Assembly Bill 5, which will go to redefining how independent contractors are handled from a human resource employment standpoint. That's a really good example of small business regulation and legislation that we want to be involved in, because, and it's very apropos being at a university, we want to make sure current professionals and future professionals have every opportunity to work in any setting that they want to work in. And part of that is being independent contractors and working at multiple practices. So how the state defines independent contractor will definitely have an impact on the profession. We have a lot of legislative support. Many of you are in these pictures. This was the steering committee process, which was very interesting because we got a lot of support and attention just by having a steering committee. Just think about what we can do is actually having a professional association that is doing good work for the profession. In addition to the advocacy, we're very serious about providing continuing education opportunities. Young Ping is overseeing our continuing education opportunities. Licensing, accreditation, student education. Had a great conversation with the universities yesterday. I think the colleges and universities will be very, very strong partners. I think they understand that we want to create a cooperative and collaborative relationship, because the universities are are, you know, probably the most important to the future of the profession, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to work with them. And I also heard loud and clear that CalATMA needs to be involved in creating employment opportunities for current and future acupuncturists, which I think we threw around some brief but very creative opportunities to create new jobs, and we appreciate and we understand that's important. So I've been employed by CalATMA for 2.5 months. And in those 2.5 months, myself and the board has been incredibly active. And I do want to also mention that I have been amazed at the amount of work that our board does. You know, I'm used to these statewide associations that have boards that come in and make policy decisions, but they have very large staff that do the bulk of the work. I have been just really, really surprised by the level of work that our board has done. But we've supported 778, 779, and 888. We've opposed 1592, which was the athletic trainer bill. We've started conversations with insurance companies. We've exchanged letters with the insurance companies. We've engaged with Ben and Jay, who have been phenomenal. I think that's important that I just make sure, just to reiterate what I've heard yesterday and I hear all the time, Ben has done a phenomenal job and will continue to do a phenomenal job. And we will do whatever we can to help him continue to be successful in that role. But Ben and Jay have been great. We meet with them on a regular basis and we will continue to do so. We participated in the ASA meeting. My experience, any strong state association needs to be an active member of their national association. The American Society of Acupuncturists do a phenomenal job in Congress and at the national level. We absolutely intend to be a member and be very, very active. We'll talk a little bit about this too, but VIA ASA is another platform and avenue in which CalATMA in California can lead the profession of acupuncture. So it's also very important to be part of ASA so California can be out front in helping to set those standards. We've started a conversation with NCCAOM. I know there's a lot of, I don't know, controversy is probably too strong of a word, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what NCCAOM is trying to do. I've met with them numerous times. Their CEO was supposed to be here today, Corey, but she couldn't make it the last time. She let me know that this morning. But I think there's a misunderstanding of what they're trying to accomplish, and what our board has already started to have a conversation with, that we want to engage with this board, is California is already recognized as having the highest level standard, having the highest level of examination and certification. So in my maybe simple mind is California should have the conversation with NCCAOM about creating the national standard. This isn't about California adopting NCCAOM's national standard. This is about California collaborating with them to create a new standard based on California's high level of expectation and expertise. This is somewhere California and the board, your board, can really provide a lot of leadership. And when I was at the ASA meeting, I met with them many times, met with NCCAOM many times. They are looking to California to provide this leadership. People are waiting on California to provide this leadership. And I think with CalATMA and with the board, there's an opportunity to do that. First annual meeting, we just decided on Sunday, we will have our first annual meeting Sunday, September 29th. You are all invited. We want to make sure we include all of our members, which ultimately the annual meeting is for. But we understand that current and future professionals are very important. We understand the board's very important. We understand our education and business and industry partners are very important. So we intend to have a very open and inclusive annual meeting, and we would love to see you all there. Part of it is an opportunity to thank Assemblyman Evelo. This is in his district, by the way. We are a little bit strategic in how we go about our business. But it's very important. We would love to have you all there and to have a good showing. This is the website, this is the phone number, this is the general email. You saw my email. I believe Ben will provide these documents as part of the meeting packet once all the webcasts, the meeting minutes and all that is put on. So this presentation will be on the website at some point. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We are very serious in how we collaborate and cooperate with folks. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you.